Yeah, so today our talk on our talk on Tuesday, we're speaking with John Nyagwencha. He is the CEO of Aqua Clara Kenya, and he's now in Kisii, Kenya, but you're based in Nairobi now, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, we have an office in Nairobi and an office in Kisii, where I am right now.
Okay, all right. So, John, before I talk a little bit about how we met and everything, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as you said, Brad, my name is John Nyagwencha. I'm born and raised in Kenya, schooled in Kenya, working in Kenya. Over the last 10 years, specifically in the water and sanitation sector, through Aqua Clara Kenya. So my education background is in environmental science.
Okay.
And from that, I then ventured into this water sector. I probably can share a little bit how that happened. So I knew that I wanted to work in the environment sector because I was always interested in the ways we could really utilize the resources we have in our planet a bit more efficiently, but also to ensure that we're not doing any harm.
Yes.
But I came down with a serious bout of typhoid, which is a waterborne disease.
Oh no.
And there are many people who come down with this disease, and I'd had it actually before. But I had one particular incident, one particular episode that was quite intense, and I came close to losing my life because I went to the hospital and they said that if you had come a week later, you probably would not have made it. And from that, I really got some new respect for the simple things that we take for granted. Simple things like access to safe drinking water, things that I had not thought about before. And it started hitting home that there are many people across Kenya and across Africa that are not going to be as lucky as I was, that for them it may be too late, or they are not able to access hospitals where they can get this medication, and all from something that is quite preventable.
Yes.
And so from that, I did my master's thesis around this topic. And while doing that, I came across this amazing organization that was just starting. And they had a very simple technology that they were rolling out, right, that could quite inexpensively and in a very simple way, but yet magical way, I thought, transform the dirty water that many people have access to and make it safe for drinking. And that's how I ended up at Aqua Clara Kenya. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite a story, and how that typhoid affected your life, and then here you are. You're helping literally millions. I think by the time it's all done, John, you think I've only reached a few, but the trickle down effect and everything, and how you've empowered other people is going to be something amazing. And we just never have any idea. We think that like with typhoid there and waterborne issues, we think that that's something that only goes on in other countries. Here in the U.S., some people think that, but in the very state that Aqua Clara is located in, you've heard of the Flint, Michigan crisis, right? Had you ever heard of that? Yeah. And that was due to lead in the pipes, how the pipes were assembled and everything. And so, that caused irreparable damage to especially a lot of young people and everything, to their health and everything. And we still have places here in the southern United States, in Mississippi and Louisiana and things, that same thing, it's just, contamination from industrial sites and things of that nature, and then again, lead is a real issue. So waterborne issues are all over the world, but boy, we've seen some pretty tough stuff there in Kenya since we've been there, and I know that you've seen more of that. And so for those of you who don't know, I'll just reflect a little bit on how we come to know each other. And through Aqua Clara there in Michigan, that is how we came to know you, John. And we're looking for a simple solution to clean up the very dirty water that we found there in the Chala, Kenya area. And so through our research, we found, kind of goes backwards. We found Aqua Clara Kenya, and then I believe I contacted you, and then you put me in contact with Aqua Clara there, and then Michigan. And I think that's how it went, right?
Yeah,
It's been
that's
all
how
the
it
way back
goes.
in 2011, 2012, um, and so yeah, so we Sherry and I visited Aqua Clara there in Michigan, and found that to be a very viable uh, uh, way of cleaning up the water. And especially at the time, I liked the plastic containers. And so, and yeah, we'll go back to that when you hear about the containers. But but yeah, I like the plastic containers. It seemed very simple and everything. And so yeah, so we put everything together and we organized a training for John, you and some of your team to come to our place there in Taveta, Kenya. And hell, you were there about a week, and
Yeah, yeah.
you came to train us in all things biosand water filtration. And we're so pleased to get to know you, because one of the things about Foothold International is that what we've always believed is that there's, we don't try and reinvent the wheel. If the wheel's already been invented, then let's talk to those who know how the wheel works, and maybe we might have to change it a little, which is another thing we had to do. But we might have to change it a little, but yet we can work together and do amazing things. So you came over and trained us in all things biosand. Trained our team to build and to market and to do all those things. So you remember anything about that?
No, I can't forget. I mean, that was quite a memorable event.
Yeah.
So we were there, like you said, for about a week.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember how many participants we were training, but there are, a good mix of men and women from the local community.
Right.
Good mix of ages as well. Some a bit older, some a bit younger. People like Darius,
Yeah.
and spent the first few days, first of all, which is typically what we do with Biosand Filters. I spent the first few days looking for local sources of these materials. So where can we get the right sand? And we have to be very particular, as you remember, Brad, with the sand we are going to use. We can't just use any sand. So so we had to move around up and down the different valleys, and trying to look for the right sand, look for the right gravel and all the other materials that we needed. And once we had that sorted, then move into these sessions that were as amazing for us as trainers, hopefully for the participants as well, to really go into the mechanics of the Biosand filter, which is a very interesting product because it's simple in the materials that go into it,
Right.
but so complex in the way that it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so something that you would think will take maybe a couple of hours to explain actually ends up taking 5 days, and even 5 days in my experience is hardly sufficient to,
Yeah.
to really get to the core of this product. So yeah, I remember pretty well,
You do.
that training event. Yeah.
You do, and just going back a little bit there in the town of Chala where we worked and we set up our first biosand operation, the incidence of waterborne disease was higher than any place there in Tibet County area. And they were getting their water from a river about a mile and a half away, but yet they had these taps throughout the village. And but people would look at that water and think, well, it's coming from a tap, it's clean, right? But no, it
Yeah.
was making people very sick. And so Foothold International, being young at that time, we just started as a nonprofit, and we didn't have money to sink big boreholes, and so we looked for that alternative way to, if we can't supply new water, we'll clean up the water that they have. And so what is a very simple way, yet a way that is not hard to maintain, easy to use, and yet lasts a long time. And that's where we felt like Biosand was the right fit. And so I remember so much about that time, and especially as you laughed a little bit about the sand, and you know, we went into this thinking, oh well, you just put some sand and gravel in a container and that's it. You know, I mean, I knew there would be some other things related to that, but when you got there, was it Benson?
Yeah, with Benson, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
is he
his
still
name
with
Benson.
you?
He is still with us, yeah.
Oh, wonderful! I'd like to see him
Uh,
someday, but I remember Benson was like, "No, you can't use that sand," and so it's like, "Oh no!" And then it had to be some special gravel, and so we had to go to Tanzania to get it and
yeah,
bring it across the border. And so, but once we got it all there, then you and Benson, and you did your magic. And I want you to know that, you know, our general manager there, Darius, you so inspired him. And you know, now what, 9 years later, he's in it by himself, unfortunately. You know, you know, people come and people go, but Darius is very much
yep,
at it, and still very concerned about, you know, clean water and sanitation in his area. And so so in fact, we had sent Darius up to Kasi for some additional
yep.
training from you. And so so we're forever grateful for that. And so so yeah, so anything else you want to add about Biosand at this point?
Yeah, I mean, first, of course, is to say, we are grateful for the opportunity to
Mhm.
collaborate, and we are also continually inspired by you and by Darius.
Oh, thanks.
Staying in the battle is not easy. Like you said, many people come and go.
Hmm.
Very few of us remain for as long as people like Darius have remained to continue playing this critical role
Yeah.
in their communities. And the only thing I would add to that is that we were already doing Biosand filters. By the time that we trained you,
Mhm.
I think we had been doing it because we did the training in 2013, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
At that point, we had been implementing Biosand filters for around 4 years.
Okay.
And so the idea for us was, how do we move from being able to reach a few thousand people in Kisii and the surrounding areas to reaching the millions of people that we were talking about?
Right.
And it became apparent very quickly that we are not going to do that by working alone. We are not going to reach millions of people.
Right.
And so we started being very intentional about cooperating with organizations like Foothold International
Mhm.
that have this desire to also provide safe drinking water in their corner.
Right.
So in this case, the corner being Taveta.
Mhm.
And so it was with that idea that we continue to pursue today, that we don't want to look at other players that are distributing water filters as competition. They're co-workers. We're working together to achieve the same objective. So how can we learn from Foothold International? How can Foothold International learn from us?
Right.
So that together we are reaching a lot more people than we would reach independent of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, I remember, you know, you bringing all this knowledge to us. And so we're thinking, well, if we just duplicate everything that Aqua Clara does there in Kasi, it'll work. No way. You know, as no way. And we learned that very quickly. And you know, the ground there in Chala is very tough because those people, there's a certain mindset there that, you know, they don't need to clean that water up until somebody gets sick, and sometimes even after somebody gets sick, you know, it's they continue back to doing what they did. But one of the things that we had to focus on was the key point, and that was the education, the
Yep.
sensitization, as you call it, and continually educating people on how important that you know, clean, safe drinking water is for everyone. And so so you know, I will admit, I'll be the first to admit that that Biosand has been a tough road there in Chala. But Darius has continued to stick with it because he believes, you know, he believes that his people need clean, safe drinking water, and so for that, he is to be commended. And
Yep.
so yeah, yeah. Uh, so I noticed that now, as you know, as the years have gone by and everything, again, we chose Biosand water filters because um, number one, they were simple. Number two, they last a long time. And number three, they're fairly, once you get things up and going, once you find the sand, once you find all the right materials and work out your labor issues, then, you can produce a good product there that will last for a long time. And, I know that the turbidity or the particles in the water, the sand, the silt, and those types of things, the solids are something that we have to deal with there, because the people are, if they're not gathering the water at the tap, they're gathering it from a stream or a small river. And so, when you bring that dirt and sand and silt back to your home, you have a choice to either filter it out or to drink it. and and so, we found the Biosand filters worked really well for that. But Aqua Clara, some years ago, I think, and I love your vision for this. You started kind of looking at other methods of filtering water. So can you kind of fill us in on that, and how, where you've come from with that?
Yeah, sure. And it starts with that vision. The vision is to provide or to increase access to safe drinking water. How we do that is important, but how we do that will change depending on the context. And having worked with Biosand filters for as long as we had, and having all the love that we still do have for Biosand filters, there were certain limitations that we were alive to. One of the limitations with Biosand filters is that you cannot use chlorinated water. And now we had demand coming from towns where people have piped water. The piped water is chlorinated sometimes. What we found is that sometimes it actually isn't. And you are not going to be sure which day it's not chlorinated for you not to drink it.
Right.
And so the people who have awareness of this want to filter their water, but the Biosand filter will not work well if the water is sometimes chlorinated.
Right.
So for that, you need a different solution. The second limitation we saw with Biosand filters that we had to solve is that it's, as you remember, Brad, first of all, it's a very bulky and very heavy product. Right. Not bulky, it's a very heavy product. So it will take maybe 5 very strong, well-fed men to lift it off the ground and transport it to another location. And secondly, for the design of the Biosand filter that we implement, even moving it 1 centimeter or 3 centimeters is going to affect the internal materials, and that may affect the quality of the water that is coming out. And so with that in mind, we started looking at other solutions that could fit different situations. So for people who have chlorinated water, or in our case, teachers who are going to be transferred quite frequently and they want to be able to move with their filter. And so we in 2016, I believe it was, we started testing this new technology called hollow fiber membrane filtration technology. Works the same way. So you get water from a dirty source, you put it through your filter, it takes out the contamination. So whether that is bacteria, parasites, whether it's sediments that you can see visually, takes it out and makes it safe for drinking. The only difference being, rather than using sand, you are using a plastic material that has very small microscopic pores to take out the contamination easily and correctly. People were able to maintain it as it needed to, so the very basic process of cleaning it after usage. And even though it doesn't last as long as Biosand filters, because a Biosand filter can last up to 10 years, the membrane filters can last 5 years without any replacement or any repairs. And there are a few other advantages over Biosand. So the first one is that you can filter a lot more water in a day than you would through Biosand. So the one we have, for example, you can filter 1 liter per minute. So if you literally needed a liter every minute during the day, you can filter that, and you'll have sufficient water for your household. And so we started promoting both technologies so that customers also have a choice. So if you are in a location where you know your water is going to be chlorinated, or you're going to be moving or you don't have the time every day to feed the filter with water as you need for Biosand filters, you have an option.
Right.
But if you're in your permanent home where you are very comfortable feeding water into the Biosand filter, you want the cool taste, because the Biosand filter water is the best tasting water in the world. Anybody wants to challenge me on that is free to do so. But it's the best tasting, at least to me, the best tasting water in the world. So there are people who really love it, and it's convenient and it works for them. And so for Aqua Clara, we moved to this level where we are also now interested in giving customers choice, so that they're able to choose with a good level of information. They're able to make an informed decision on what technology is going to be most appropriate for them.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I know that the coming and going to Veta, we're there maybe on when things are normal, we're there in Veta somewhere 2 to 4 months out of the year, and we're at a different house now, so we're connected to a borehole across the street, and that goes to various tanks at our house and everything like that. But it's good fresh Kilimanjaro water, and it tastes very well and everything, but we still use a hollow membrane filter. And so I bring one from the US every time I come over, and it's just an inline filter that fits in a hose pipe that connects to a bucket. And so there's not much turbidity there. The water, basically, you can put it in a glass and hold it up and not see any sediment, and it works very well, and we have certainly stayed healthy because of those. And so and it works for us there, but out there at Chala, I think we've brought in one of the membrane filters that you build, and I know that Darius has used it in his house there, and he loves it. One of the things is that we're finding that Biosand versus the membrane filter, and the way that you put the buckets together is genius, and how you pour it in and it goes down into the bottom, and you have a filter and a tap there all in one. And one of the things that we're trying to get past the price point of that, how do we purchase this and resell it? And so it seems like there in Chala, again, no matter what we do, making clean, safe water available to everyone has been somewhat difficult. And but again, like I said, Darius continues on. And so one thing that I will add about what we have, how Darius it's Aqua Chala, our project, he is diversified, John. He's gone from water filters to Sherry taught him how to make handcrafted soap. So so Darius is now making handcrafted soap. He sells it wholesale in bricks or long bars. He sells it wholesale to vendors there in his village, which he's become a very good business for him, because as he has built credibility in the community in sensitizing about water, sanitation, and hygiene, people have listened to him. They may not have been buying filters, but this is the guy that talks to us about clean, safe water. So when he came to them about this thing, soap, then they latched onto it. And then also our partner here in Hastings, Nebraska, which is Pacha Soap Company, they have a program called Raise the Bar, and we partnered with them from the beginning on soap. And they, when you buy a bar of their soap, some proceeds from that go to making soap for primary school students somewhere in the world. And so they got this project started in Burundi, and Sherry and our general manager, Charity, visited, and they visited Burundi and learned so much about making soap there in the rural areas. And so how these groups, you were empowering these women to make soap to sell in the community, but then they were also making soap for the primary schools. So Darius is supplying at this time about 600 bars of soap per month for the primary school in his area. And again, that's subsidized by Pacha Soap, but it's really changed the way things have gone. and especially during the pandemic, the soap has become,
Yeah.
it's been, I mean, it just fit in so well. And then one of the other things that Darius is doing, and I don't know if he had told you or I had told you, we got started on making the washable sanitary pads for young girls, and so now Darius has a sewing machine, and he's making those washable sanitary pads for girls who need them so that they can stay in school. And then I believe also he's branching out into making school uniforms and things of that nature. So now he has his own little kiosk there. It's no longer the pole shed that we had. It's still there, and the
Yeah.
termites have worked on it very well. But he has his own kiosk now where he keeps his sewing machine
Nice.
and he makes his soap and everything. And so you were a part of that, and collectively we worked with Darius and patient with him, and he has come so far. And so he has two children now, and so he's doing well for himself. So
Yeah.
thank you, John, for being a part of that. It's people's lives are better in that area because of you. So we're very thankful to you. So
Yeah. No, no, thank you. Thank you for making us a part of it. It's also refreshing to hear all this, all this change that has come from the little things that we do here and there. So it's quite
yeah,
encouraging to hear.
yeah. So you also got into some water filtration for schools and on larger scale. Are you
Yeah.
still doing that? Can you explain a little bit about Aqua Clara Kenya's?
Yeah. Yeah. I can. So the the idea again, it just goes back to the vision, is that people have access to safe drinking water. And if you're going to have safe drinking water at home,
Mhm,
so imagine you're a young kid, like 8 years old. At home, your parent has been smart enough to invest in a Biosand filter or a membrane filter.
mhm.
And so you're drinking safe water at home. But
Right,
you go to school, and the situation is very different because the school doesn't have a solution that fits.
right.
The likely situation is that you're going to drink the dirty water that you find there.
Mhm.
And that means we've not really helped you because you're still going to get sick. And the idea is that you don't get sick. And so we've always looked at the whole movement of especially children, but also, everybody generally, and ensure that people are going to get safe drinking water wherever they are. For children, especially that are going to schools, there is a big risk that they get waterborne diseases at school. And so we developed technologies that are also targeted to schools.
Mhm.
And the main challenge with schools, unlike homes where some people may be able to boil water, and I've found a few that do it very well and very consistently. Some may use chlorination, the different products that we have for chlorination, and they're happy to do it, and they're doing it consistently. The situation in schools is very different because boiling water for 500 to 1,000 kids is insane. Like, you need a lot of firewood, you need a lot of fuel to be able to boil that amount of water. Then distributing it and then storing it properly is a big challenge. And so we have developed solutions that ensure that schools can make whatever water they have access to, make it safe quite affordably, quite quickly, so that the students that are there, but also the teachers, have access to safe drinking water throughout the school year. In cases where they don't have access to water in parts like Kisi, where there's a lot of rainfall, we also do rainwater harvesting. So
Right.
we've trained technicians that are able to harvest the water that is coming down from the rain, and from that, then we're able to filter it. There are two types of filtration systems that we've developed for schools. So we have one smaller one that targets a population of, say, 200, 300 kids.
Right.
Very similar to the household filter. You collect water from whatever source, you pour it into there are two buckets. So the top bucket will take the dirty water. In between, you have that membrane component that filters the water.
Mhm.
And then at the bottom, you have a safe water storage container that has a tap.
Okay.
And for schools, we actually have 3 taps so that the kids can, instead of crowding around one tap, they're able to go around and drink quickly.
Right. The filter that you're talking about, did you develop that filter for the schools of 200 or less with the 3 taps, or
Yep.
you did? Okay, because the reason you brought something up there, uh, there's a school way out there in Maasai land where we work,
Mhm.
and they, we were helping them with rainwater harvesting. Some kids here in the U.S. raised like $450, and they were able to buy gutters and
Mhm.
put on their
Mhm.
school for a
Mhm.
rainwater catchment system, which really changed
Yeah.
that tiny school there.
Mhm.
But then I'm not sure the organization, but it was a worldwide organization that ended up bringing in a large round plastic device that had, I think, about 4 or 5 taps on it, but it
Mhm.
was like a large membrane filter, like a large washing sink, it almost looked like. And
Yeah.
if I recall, it had like a foot pedal on it or something like that, so you could backwash it and clean it.
Mhm.
Have you
Mhm.
seen those?
Yeah, I've seen a few filters like that. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so they were taking that rainwater and bringing it in and pouring it into this device, and then it was able to serve that school. And so that was quite an
Yeah.
impressive device. I liked it. It was well made, well thought out, and yeah,
Yeah. And for smaller schools, that works out well. What we found is that if you have like 1,000 kids in a school, it's going to be quite a task to refill those buckets throughout the day.
right.
And so we designed a different system that you feed with on an inline pipe, either from a rainwater harvesting tank, or if you have piped water coming into the school from somewhere.
Mhm.
That water then goes through a process of filtration, and you have several taps in strategic locations in the school that you can label safe drinking water point,
Mhm.
where the school population can get their safe drinking water. And
Right.
so we have those two systems. For the smaller schools, we have that 3 tap, 2 bucket system. For the larger schools, we have the inline system.
Okay. So how does the
Yeah.
inline briefly? How does the inline system work? Is it membrane also, or what's that system of filtration?
Yeah, it is a membrane filtration system. So the household one and the small school filter that I've talked about
Uh-huh.
use a 3-inch membrane. So it's a smaller piece of membrane. It's about this size.
Uh-huh.
But for the larger system, we use still membrane technology, but now we are using 10-inch. So much larger membranes
Right.
that have a capacity. So we use 2 of them. And with the 2 of them, we're able to filter 10,000 liters in a day
That's amazing,
or
John.
thereabout.
That is
So
amazing.
the capacity is much, much higher. Uh, Interestingly, it's even easier to clean. So you think that the higher you go, it becomes more complicated. It's actually a much easier system to
Yeah.
clean and to backwash.
Yeah.
And so from that, we've been able to provide safe drinking water to schools, to hospitals. Hospitals are another challenge, especially for access to safe drinking water.
Mhm.
But also, we are looking at an enterprise model where you have an entrepreneur at the local community with this type of system that is doing a refill business. So people who don't want to buy a water filter or have not bought a water filter that need safe drinking water
Right.
can come and buy water from a local entrepreneur that is using one of these larger systems.
Wow. The ideas are that the wheels are turning
Mhm.
now for me, John. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. So that larger membrane filter basically, basically you invest in the membrane, but then you put all your pipes together and you have your storage. But it's quite simple for to serve for 10,000 liters. That's amazing. That is amazing. And so just to give us some idea,
Yeah.
10,000 liters is about how many gallons? I'm trying to, I don't have the conversion right now, but that's okay. That's okay.
I
Uh,
know 5 gallons is around 18 point around 20. Yeah, it's around four
yeah.
liters to a
Wow.
gallon,
Wow. So yes, I'm thinking,
thereabout. Yeah.
that school that has that donated water, that donated filter. Um, we were chatting with the principal and we talked with, well, how do you clean this? And she said, well, they just, you hit this pedal and you do that, and it takes this clean water and it back flushes it. And then I said, but what about when you have to replace parts or when you have to replace the membrane? And she said, they just brought it and told us how to use it and
No
left.
idea.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay. And so to my knowledge, I don't know
Mm.
that that filter is still working, you know, and so it's so important. And I know that if they bought one from you, somebody would have been there and trained them in all aspects of, you know, of setting up that filter, maintaining it, and you know, so that it will serve them properly and serve them well. So um, yeah, because we've been, you know, wondering about ways, because we've seen there's a group down the road from us about 30-40 miles. They're building very large biosand filter um,
Mhm.
uh, devices, like
Yeah.
almost like probably 5,000 liter tanks and
Wow.
everything at schools.
Mhm.
And so they work on the same premise as biosand filters, if I'm
Mhm.
correct.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a lot. That's a lot, John. That's a lot to work
Mhm.
with. You know, building
Yeah. Yeah.
tanks out of concrete and everything. And so, and then not only that, but from where you're looking at building those filters on an enterprise level, you know, I'm envisioning Darius at his kiosk there could set up a larger filter and sell filtered water from his kiosk. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, the wheels are turning. I'm so glad you shared that with us. And so in just keeping with our time here, is there I have a couple of final questions, but is there anything let me go back. Beyond water filtration, is there anything between water filtration and sensitization? What else is Aqua Clara into? What are you doing now?
Yeah. I mean, we focus on that whole chain. So from awareness, which is what you're calling sensitization. So from creating awareness so that people know and have the need for safe drinking water,
Right.
and then providing the actual solution, which in itself is a whole process. So it starts from designing the solution, working with local manufacturers to ensure that it's produced, and then distributing it so that as people get awareness and you create demand,
Right.
they're able to access the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it doesn't even stop there. Then, of course, you work with the sales agents, and we have a number of sales agents. This year, we are approaching 500 sales agents
Wow.
uh, that we train and support. And their work then is to be able to convince customers that this is the right solution, this is how it works, and ensure that that is delivered, and they receive training on how to take care of it and where to go if they have a problem.
Right.
And then the next piece for us is monitoring, evaluation, and learning, which is very, very critical. So for us, it's not good enough to say I've given a filter, so you have safe drinking water. My job is done.
Right.
For us, that's actually where it begins. You have a filter now. We have to ensure that that filter is used properly and correctly. And so we have a team that does monitoring. 100% of the people that buy products from us will receive a call within a month to find out whether they are happy with the product, are they able to use it, do they have any questions,
Right.
and then remind them that if they have any question or any problem, there's a number that is provided, a helpline
That's amazing.
that they can call. And then beyond that, every year we have a sample, it's roughly around 10% of all customers that we will visit physically, and we collect a water sample from them for water testing. So we want to continue ensuring that we are not just saying the filters work, but we have evidence
Yeah.
that shows that the filters that people are using that they've bought from us are actually producing safe drinking water.
Right.
As a result of that last piece, we also have an income stream. So beyond just the money we make from selling filters, because as you know, Brad, we don't believe in giving them away for free.
Yes. Yes.
The money that we recover from selling the filters
Right.
uh, is not sufficient to
Mhm.
cover all the expenses, all the operation expenses that we have.
Right.
And so several years ago, we started getting money from carbon credits. So besides the income that we make from selling products, we also get carbon credits. Carbon credits typically comes from the fact that the people that buy our filters have either been boiling, or if they had the awareness, they would be boiling.
Right.
And so when they stop boiling, the carbon dioxide emission, which would have been generated from that process of boiling, which causes climate change,
Yes.
is prevented. And that can be processed and sold in the carbon market.
Mhm.
And so that's a big aspect of our work as well, processing those credits, which then generate income. And that income is plowed back to ensure that more and more people are getting access to safe drinking water.
I love that because you know the carbon credits is that you know you're changing the world in that way, also making it safer for not only those living in this time but in generations ahead. And so that is so good that you're able to do that. Um, are you into any? Are you doing anything like soap or any other aspects of wash like that, or are you just staying with the water filter?
We are expanding into other wash aspects, as you know, sanitation and
Mhm.
hygiene are also important if we are
Right,
to prevent waterborne diseases.
right.
And so over the last few years, we've started piloting a few sanitation products.
Mhm.
Last year, because of COVID, we did a pilot to test demand for soap,
Mhm.
which is something that we're analyzing still. And I'm very inspired by what Darius is doing.
Mhm.
Perhaps there's an opportunity for us to learn from him.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, but soap making is something that we tested last year. The idea being that, of course, people have soap for hand washing, but also we have another income stream for our sales agents.
Yes.
And so this is an area that we are still actively working on.
Yeah.
But the intention from us is that we diversify from just water filters and rainwater harvesting and
Right.
start looking at the hygiene and sanitation component.
Yes.
So that through the big workforce that I talked about that we are creating for distributing these products, we're able to have a bigger impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sherry would love to talk with you about soap. We have seen it transform not only Darius's life, but we also there was a group of Maasai women. Uh,
Mhm.
10 miles off into the bush there in the Taveta area that were taught how to make handcrafted soap. And so they built their own shop and
Mm.
and everything. And they just poured their concrete floor. And this was all from their own income. You know, they're buying
Wow.
chickens, they're taking dividends at Christmas, which
Mm.
for a Maasai man, for his wife to come and bring, dividends that she's earned from
Mm.
her women's empowerment group on Christmas Day. And the Maasai man says, "Where did you get that?" She says, "I earned it."
Mhm.
And he's like,
Mhm.
"Wow." So we've seen the empowering of women transform that community there. And along with a pastor that works in that area. And it's been amazing. And those women are doing such amazing things. And they're not only selling they cannot make the community soap fast enough because
Mhm. Oh wow.
they're using it for laundry. They're using it
Yeah.
for all aspects of life. They're washing there at the river, washing their
Mhm.
clothes, washing their babies, and some are even doing their dishes with it. And then not only that, but those women are also making about 1,600 bars of soap a month uh,
Wow.
for four primary schools in that area. And so one of the trickle down effect from that was that we started making only 600 bars of soap back in 2016.
Mhm.
So enrollment has increased, health
Mhm.
has gotten better, all
Mhm.
aspects have changed at these schools. And then the children go home and say, "Mom, I wash my hands at school now. Where's our soap at home?"
Mhm.
So, they're saying, "Okay, I need to find out about this." So they're going back to the school and
Mhm.
saying, "Tell us about this." And so, yeah, there's a soap that's supplied every month so that our children can wash their hands. And they say, "Where can I get this wonderful soap?" And so then they refer them back to our ladies group. And so
Mhm.
it's been amazing to see that happen, and love to, wow, it's been a good thing.
Wow.
So yeah, so I'd love to chat with you in the future about that. And
Mhm.
so before we go, you've uh, you've done a lot with Aqua Clara, and it's been amazing to hear some of the things that you're doing, and to learn from you. I want to learn something else from you. Um, what has been your, so, you know, when we're doing things like this, I know that we go in with great expectations like we did with Biosand, and we think everything is going to work out fine and everything is going to go perfect and everybody's going to want to buy our filters and everybody's going to be drinking clean, safe drinking water. And we soon found out that, wow, this is tough.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call it a failure because we're still working today. We're still learning today. We're still adapting, evolving. And so you've had many successes, but before I get to successes, what have you had any failures? And if you've had, can you give me one that you've learned maybe your greatest lesson from it in your time at Aqua Clara Kenya?
Oh yeah, I mean we've had lots of failures, lots of failures. If I was to put it down on paper, I think I'll run out of paper.
Wow.
And I think, I mean, if you're trying things, you're going to fail. It's just the risk you have to take.
Right.
And the failure is really for us the part of the learning process, because if we are able to look at the lessons that are coming from that, then we're able to improve. And the successes we have today are thanks to a great part to the failures we had yesterday.
Yeah.
And so that's the attitude we take in. And just to highlight a few of the failures we've had, there was a time we thought we could solve everybody's water problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we had solutions that were quite limited in the things that we could do. So in one case, we got a big order from a very large school that needed, I think at that time was 20,000 liters of safe drinking water with, every half a day, because they're circulating a lot of students.
Right.
And so we thought, yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity. Let's do it. We'll figure it out. We are smart guys. We tend to think we are. We'll figure it out. And so we took that contract and started working on it. It took us such a long time to even figure out where to start. And in the end, we did not deliver on that project, and we had to apologize for it. But we had also wasted a lot of the time that could have gone into helping so many other people. And so one of the key lessons from that failure to deliver on this project that was a huge opportunity, or so it seemed at the time, one of the key lessons for us from that was that we need to be very clear about what we are trying to do. So even if it's water and it's safe water, it doesn't mean that it's everybody's safe water problems that we are going to solve. So we have to be very clear on the scope of work. And we've kind of narrowed it down now to where we are likely to be most effective. And we accept in areas where we have no expertise and it's out of our depth to tell potential clients that here are the experts. We do a good job in this side of things, but on this particular issue, we can recommend these guys. Of course, we know a few people in the sector that do projects that we can't do. And that humility that comes from that, I think, has been a good lesson to really focus on the things that we are good at and the things that we are not good at and we have no expertise, or we are not building expertise, to kind of pass up those opportunities.
Right.
So that would be one key failure and the lesson that came out of it. But there'll be so many of them. I don't think we have the time to go through that list.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, just overall, what you learned from that is a lifetime of experience. You could what you learned from that, you could apply for a lifetime, and that's invaluable. So now finally, in your time at Aqua Clara, what do you feel has been your greatest success other than providing clean, safe drinking water for many people?
No, that's an easy one, actually. The team. So for me, I think the thing I'm most proud about is the team that we've built over the years. Right now, we have 18 full-time employees. Very, very amazing people that are dedicated, very passionate about the work they do. Very, very smart and very competent in the different responsibilities that they have. But also people that have a good time, because I've never wanted to be in an organization where it's, the work we do is serious. I like it. it's helping people avoid waterborne disease, serious business.
Mhm.
But we don't have to wear a very serious face as we do it.
Yeah.
We can enjoy it, and we can enjoy the process. So
Yeah.
for me, the most fulfilling part of my job is really to see the team that we've been able to put together, the growth that we see day to day in every team member,
Mhm.
the passion, the dedication, and the good time that we have while trying to do this very serious and, as you rightly pointed out, very difficult work of ensuring that everybody has access to safe drinking water.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Your team and I know I sensed that as well. Sherry and the rest of our team, we had quite a few of North Americans there when you came over. We were doing some other work there when you were doing your training, and that's one of the things that we were greatly impressed with you and Benson, and it was
Mhm.
amazing, to meet the two of you and to learn from you, and to hear what you've done. And so um, I'd like to stay on here for a lot longer, but I know it's what's pushing 5 o'clock your time there now, and so I
Yeah.
can get on. You want to get on into your. So anything else that you want to say before we close out?
Just thanks for this conversation. It's brought some good memories of some of the things we've done in the past, but also encouraged me, I think, from seeing the growth that you continue to have as Foothold International, the growth that we are having at Aqua Chala, the growth that Darius is having. I didn't even know that he has 2 kids now. I think I have some catching up to do.
Yeah,
So this has been really a great pleasure to reconnect with a friend and go back down memory lane, and to also cast an eye to the future and see some of the things that we can do as partners as we move into the future.
absolutely. Like I said, the wheels for me are already turning. You know, water filtration on a little larger scale, and then maybe if you want to connect about soap sometime in the future, let us know, and you'd love to chat about
Yep.
that.
Oh, for sure.
And Sherry is
For sure.
very, very passionate about that, and she'd love to share with you about that, I'm sure. And so again, this has been Talks on Tuesday, and today we were talking with our friend John Nyagwencha of Aqua Clara Kenya, partly in Kisii, Kenya, and Nairobi also. So John, again, thank you very much. It's been great to talk with you, and we'll be chatting hopefully in the very near future. So have yourself a good day and a good weekend. Okay.
Thank you, Brad. It's been a pleasure. Have a good day,
Thank you,
good
John.
weekend too. All right.
See you. Bye bye.